Strapped to a gurney, knowing this could be it, knowing you might be about to die for a crime, for a murder that you didn't commit.
Yeah.
That's the reality for Marcellus Williams, executed just hours ago in Missouri for the 1998 murder of Felicia Gayle.
Wow.
Heavy stuff.
Ah.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, absolutely. This case, I mean, it really just highlights just how flawed the justice system can be.
It does.
And it's not just another true crime story. I mean, this brings up so many questions. I mean, about capital punishment, about how reliable evidence really is.
Right.
And what does justice even mean?
Yeah. I mean, how do we grapple with that? So for our listeners who haven't followed this case as closely, Williams was convicted back in 2001. The brutal stabbing of Felicia Gayle, who was a newspaper reporter.
Yeah.
Over 40 stab wounds. Brutal personal attack. But here's where it gets really unsettling, right? The prosecutors, the very same people who fought to put Williams away, are now having serious doubts.
Yeah.
They actually supported Williams' innocence claims.
Yeah, and you said unsettling, and I think that's exactly the right word because, you know, as a prosecutor, it's almost unheard of for them to admit they made a mistake,
Right.
let alone completely switch sides and advocate for someone that they actually fought to convict.
Right.
I mean, that should tell you something right there about just how many questions there are surrounding this whole case.
Huge red flag.
Huge.
Red flag. And we're not just talking about like a gut feeling here. 2017, new evidence emerges. DNA analysis of the murder weapon. No trace of Williams's DNA.
Yeah.
Directly contradicts that whole original narrative of this crime.
This isn't just like a missing piece of the puzzle.
Right.
This completely changes the picture.
Exactly.
Right. This, on top of the fact that they got this conviction in the first place, based on eyewitness testimony.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Because I think, you know, we watch these crime shows.
Right.
And we think, eyewitness testimony? Yeah, that's it. You got him right.
Yeah, you would think. But actually, studies have shown that misidentification by eyewitnesses, it plays a role in over 70% of wrongful convictions that are later overturned by DNA evidence.
70%.
70%. It's
yeah.
huge, right? Because you have to think about it. Memories are fragile. They change over time.
Right.
Think about the stress of a situation like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So you're telling me that somebody who experienced this horrible crime, that years later they're going to remember every little detail.
Right.
And not just that, even the way the police phrase questions can actually influence somebody's memory. So to base an entire case, especially a death penalty case on that
It's shaky.
It's more than shaky. It's
incredibly risky.
It's incredibly risky.
70%, that's a huge number. It's terrifying to think about how many lives have been affected by this.
Absolutely.
And then you add on top of that the issue of racial bias in jury selection.
Right.
The Innocence Project, who's been fighting for Williams this whole time, they're saying black jurors were deliberately kept off that jury.
Right. And this is where it gets even trickier because you have this thing called peremptory challenge, which means that both sides can dismiss a certain number of jurors without giving a reason. It's supposed to be used to weed out biased jurors, but in reality, it can be used to get rid of anyone.
Right.
So let's say, for example, you're a lawyer and you don't want somebody on a jury who might sympathize with the defendant. You could use a peremptory challenge to get rid of that person simply because they remind you of the defendant's grandmother.
Wow.
You don't have to have a reason.
Okay.
And what's even more disturbing is that in this case, the prosecutor admitted to dismissing a black juror because he resembled Williams. He even said they had similar glasses. I mean, come on.
That's blatant. So, okay, to recap, we have a case where the only evidence was eyewitness testimony, which we've established is questionable at best.
Yeah.
We have this new DNA evidence that points away from Williams.
Right.
You have allegations of racial bias in the jury selection. And on top of all of that, even the prosecutors themselves are saying, wait a minute, we might have gotten this wrong.
Yeah.
And yet, despite all of this, Missouri Governor Mike Parson refused to halt this execution.
And this is the terrible thing about the death penalty, right? You have these governors and they're under so much pressure.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to uphold the law. They have to follow what the courts have decided.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're facing this impossible decision. What if this person's actually innocent? And Governor Parson, in his statement about this, he stressed that no court had overturned the conviction. But, I mean, is that really enough when there's so much doubt?
It's just an awful, awful situation. And it makes you think about, before the execution, Williams, his last words, All praise be to Allah in every situation.
Wow.
It's just a chilling reminder of what's at stake here. And it really highlights, like you said, this uncomfortable truth about the death penalty.
It's irreversible.
There's no going back.
Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder how many other people are out there like Marcellus Williams,
Right.
who have been silenced by a system that may have failed them.
And this isn't just, some courtroom drama in Missouri. This is about the foundation of our justice system. The system that should be there to protect all of us. And if this could happen to Marcellus Williams, it could happen to anybody. It could happen to someone you love. It could happen to somebody in your community. It really makes you think.
It really does.
If you are as troubled by this case as we are, we encourage you to learn more, to look into the Innocence Project, to see the work that they're doing, and to think about how you can help. Because justice delayed or denied, it diminishes all of us.
That's right.
This is a conversation that we need to continue to have.